All right, everybody. We're live here, episode 14 of Just the Gi Top podcast. So today we have on the podcast Alessandro Roman Camargo. So Alessandro, you want to just say hi to everybody quickly?
Hello, everybody. Alessandro Roman Camargo, right here, live to you on Just a Gi Top.
So Alessandro's a pretty decorated local competitor. 2012 Abu Dhabi silver medalist, 2012 World No-Gi silver medalist, 2012 Pan No-Gi champion and runner-up absolute, 2013 European Championship bronze weight and absolute, and 2013 Pan's Gi bronze medalist. So very decorated competitor. So
and
just
that's
quickly,
just the recent one. That's just the recent one.
That's just the highlights of the last 12 months.
I won golden no-gi Niagara Open.
Gold's a lot more.
So, as always, we've got our regular panel members. We've got Ahmed Tirani.
Hello.
We have Jordan Short.
Hey.
And we have Rami Tirani.
Hey.
Myself, Adam Cousins. So, before we get started, I just want to say thank you again to our sponsor, VHTS. Check them out, veryhardtosubmit.com. Awesome geese. So, just get it kicked off here, Alessandro. Could you maybe just tell us a bit about who you are, when you started training, how you got into jiu-jitsu?
Okay. My name is Alessandro Roman Camargo. I'm originally from Colombia. I came here to Canada when I was about 5 years old. I started training jiu-jitsu around, I would say, end of 2009, starting 2010. This was like when I don't know if you guys remember combat arts back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then it started venturing down to Extreme Couture. Bocek went to Extreme Couture. And the reason I started, to be honest with you, was because I saw Ong Bak. And I saw Tony Jaa do all these crazy moves, and I'm like, oh man, I want to do exactly what that guy does. So I went to do kickboxing. I started doing kickboxing. And then my friend Frank Marquez at the time, we went to high school together. And he said, man, I think you should just do the jiu-jitsu, try it out. I'm like, oh man, but I really want to do what Tony Jaa does. The guy jumps off buildings and jumps on cars and does all this crazy stuff. And they said Muay Thai, right? They don't lie about what it says, right? So I started doing jiu-jitsu then when Frank told me to. And from there, it just kicked off. You know how everyone starts, right? Usually you become a hobby first in the beginning. And then from there, it just took off, right? So I started training 24/7.
You train full time now, right?
I do, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna ask, like, at what point did you kind of realize that that's what you want to do? You want to dedicate all your time to training full time?
Well, let's put it a long story short. I used to work as an automotive mechanic at Audi in Oakville. So one day I was working and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and I kept thinking about jiu-jitsu. And when you work on cars, you can't really mess around with that because
especially in Audi, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right. So then I realized, you know what? I really don't want to be doing this. So I pretty much gave up my job to do what I do now. I just couldn't handle anymore, and I really wanted. I was very passionate about jiu-jitsu at the time in my head. And I jumped right into it, and I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go gun-ho, right? So I'm just going to go for it.
And then is that...
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ron.
Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead, I go ahead. No, I was going to ask, what belt were you, Alessandro, at the time?
I was a white belt at the time.
Wow, so you made the decision at a white belt?
I did, yes.
Wow, like, because, yeah, as a white belt myself, but like you said, I was just kind of playing around, didn't know much. Were you doing well competing at the time? Was that what opened your eyes? Was it like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, maybe I should do this full time, or?
Yeah, no, well, before I did my mechanics and stuff, I went to university and school just like everyone else, and I used to play soccer at a very high level, and I played baseball for 10 years at a very high level. So my whole childhood has just been athletics. So I kind of the thing where if I put my mind to any sport I wanted to get into, I could do whatever I felt, right? And it's within ourselves too, right? So if we feel like we can do something, we just go for it. And I'm the type of guy where if I'm gonna go chase for my dreams, I'll chase for them. So I realized at the time, and I just went. It's really hard to explain, you know.
Yeah, I mean, for us anyway, I guess it is. We're not really all that good. No, I'm
No.
yeah, no, that's amazing. No.
No, some people told me here and there, like, oh, you're not bad, you have a natural talent, but don't we all hear that? Oh, yeah, you have a natural talent. And then you go and you get smashed by the next guy, and you don't feel so good after, right? So,
Fair enough.
yeah.
When you started training full time, did you give up the dreams of being like Tony Jaa?
I did actually. I'm like, I don't think Tony Jaa does exactly what these guys do. So.
Combat martial arts. Was it combat arts, sorry?
Yeah, combat arts, yeah.
Is that still running? Is that Amir?
Yeah, I think it is Amir, yeah. I think Amir
Oh, so you were training there?
Yeah, that was like my first class was over there.
Oh, so when did you switch over to Toronto BJJ?
My story was like this. Mark Bocek went to Extreme Couture. I went to Extreme Couture, and then Bruno Fernandez came in town, and we picked him up, and he started teaching Extreme Couture. Bruno gave me my blue belt. I went to Montreal. I left Montreal. I came back, and this was like 3 years ago. I joined Toronto BJJ.
Oh wow! So you've kind of been all over the place. And
yeah,
so,
I was a gypsy. I was a jiu-jitsu gypsy.
But you think you found your home with Toronto BJJ? Like,
I did.
That's where you want to stick around for a little while.
No, I did because I can say that George and most Brazilians like this. They teach you about loyalty and stick to your family. I'm sure you guys all heard it all the time, right? And loyalty is one of the biggest things these guys promote, right, within jiu-jitsu schools. So I think once I found Toronto BJJ, ever since then I've always taken off, and I felt great, and they're my family now, my home.
So aside from the whole like loyalty, which I can understand, a lot of academies promote that, and I think it's kind of cool. It kind of creates like a brotherhood. But aside from that, what kind of keeps you wanting to stay there? You train full time, so you obviously take it really seriously, and I'm assuming your dreams are to be a world champion and
of course
all that. So like, why stay there as opposed to somewhere else?
Well, I can't lie. We train like savages every day, so we're always pushing ourselves to the limit, and there's never an easy role with anybody, right? So on top of that, we have a school of 500 students, probably like 430 are active, right? So you're never less of a partner. You always have.
There's 500 students at Toronto BJJ.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm pretty close. I'm pretty sure to that answer, but I would say 400 are active. So.
Well, you guys have two locations, right? Young and Bloor, is it Young and Bloor?
Yeah, Bloor and.
Sorry, it's downtown.
Ossington and like between Bathurst and Ossington on Bloor Street, yeah.
So kind of like going back to why you train there. What's your schedule like week to week, day to day? Like how much do you train? How does that go?
All right, well,
take us through a full day if you could. That'd be great.
A day or a week? You want a day?
Well, day and then I guess multiply by 7, right? So.
Okay. All right, if you want to get technical with it, then okay. So a day would be, if I'm teaching, it would change, right? But a regular day with training would probably be I wake up. I live in Mississauga, so I have to commute. So it's like a 2.5-hour bus ride for me. So I get up in the morning, I commute, I get there for 12. We train for about 2 hours from 12 to 2. I leave training, I go eat, I come back for like 4 o'clock. I do my weightlifting with my trainer, either in the morning or afternoon. So if I'm gonna get up in the morning and train with my trainer in the morning, I have to get up like at 6, take the bus, get there for 8, do my lifting session, train at 12, eat, come back for 7, train 7 to 9, do the same thing again next day.
And that keeps going, I'm assuming, every single day.
And yeah, that's a vicious circle. Yeah.
Do you have a day off to rest at all?
I usually take Sundays, but I'm crazy. I just think the next guy's gonna do better than me, so I always keep training. I never stop.
That doesn't sound like it leaves you with a whole lot of free time, man. You're living in Mississauga. That's a terrible commute, man. 2.5 hours, you said?
It is. It's pretty bad.
How do you deal? How do you do you have a job on the side, or how are you paying for all these trips? Because it sounds like you do a lot of traveling in order to compete.
I do. Well, thankfully I have some pretty good sponsors now. It's taken me quite some time to collect that. So it never was exactly the way it is now. Now I'm teaching. I get to save a little bit more money within myself. But to be honest with you, take for example this weekend, the Pan Ams. I couldn't go. I don't have the funds to make this trip, right? So these are things I kind of have to sacrifice, and then if I can get sponsored for the next tournament, I'll do the next tournament. But sometimes the lack of money is a big thing for me. But I teach at a place in Mississauga, and I teach at Toronto BJJ, so I make my living like that.
You really have to like pick and choose which tournaments that you really want to do.
Exactly. And now more a brown belt where things get stiffer. Your next belt is black, so it's very very specific to everything. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if this is too personal. If you don't want to answer it, that's sort of
Don't worry.
fine.
Anything's
But
fine.
just like your main source of income is it through teaching? Is that how you've been able to afford everything? That's how you're kind of going day to day.
Yeah.
Or is it through sponsors? Are sponsors able to pay? Because we had Arthur on a little while, and he was saying that sometimes sponsorships, they're good for like free gear, and sometimes they pay for entry into a tournament. But like what is it that kind of gets you through your weeks, your months, your year, whatever?
Well, no, Arthur's correct. Like the sponsors don't really give you too much when it comes to, when it comes to gear. That's mostly what they give you, right? Is the gear. They want you to put the name out, media for you and them, right? Sponsors is depending who you have. I'm thankful to have to name one is Josh, the owner of the gym with Toronto BJJ. He's one of my biggest sponsors, and he helps me quite a bit with what I do, right? So I have to give a lot of credit to him and my success with going to these trips and making and being able to attend them, right? But when it comes to if he wasn't there, I would have to do everything myself with my teaching and save money, and then that would be much harder, right?
So do you have like any like leading up on that? Do you have any like advice for some other person who was thinking about doing it full time? Like you've had all this experience since you were white belt training full time, so you must have some sort of opinion on how they should approach it. What are your thoughts?
I honestly, I always say to the guys, I always get this question from them. I say, how do you do what you do? How do I just become this competitor? Well, I think the best thing you can do is you have to remember that there's going to be trials and tribulations through anything, right? So the sacrifices that you're going to make are going to be pretty epic. So if that means you have to work from, I know Adam works at night, correct?
Yeah, I work
late night. Yeah, so you know how it feels to work a late night. Maybe you want to train the next day, but you can't because you're tired, right? Sometimes what happens, right? So maybe the guy wants to save some money because he wants to work a 12-hour shift during the night, but the next day he has to train because he has to go to a tournament. So these kind of sacrifices you kind of have to do to make more money. So at the end of the day, if you do all these sacrifices, you're gonna get to where you want to be. Is what I'm trying to say, right? So you're gonna go through a lot.
Man,
I've been through quite a bit, man.
Man, I feel like such a sissy compared to all you guys. You guys are like working.
You kind of
I am. I worked 9 to 5, and I train regular, and I'm home by the regular hour, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sore. You guys have it pretty rough, man. That's the 2-hour commute. I mean, that alone is. I drive half hour to work, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
I just put, honestly, see these Dre beats I have? I just put these on and I just go. I just start walking, I start taking the bus, I bike. I sometimes actually bike from Toronto to Mississauga. It took me 2 hours and a half. In the summer, I would do it all the time. It took me 2.5 hours.
That's not right.
So, okay, since we're talking about tournaments and all that, Alessandro, you know, in the area, for those who don't know, in the Toronto GTA area, Greater Toronto area, we have tournaments popping up literally every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even every week, whatever. It depends on the time of year. How do you choose which ones to do? Like, I know I saw you didn't compete at the GTA Classic, but you were at the last Grappling Industries one, which
That's
was on a trip. Is it the prestige? Is it the trips you're trying to win because you can get some money out of that? Is it like what's your matrix, your thought matrix for that?
Well, can I be honest with you?
Yes, of course.
So the Grappling Industries, I did it because I actually needed the money. So I was like, oh man, I have to win this tournament. I was telling myself every single day, I have to get this money. And I was going for the 2 trips. And
Yeah.
I ended up winning the first one, and I lost the final against Amir, as you guys saw. So I was pretty bummed about that. But
Hey, I tried to ref that one, man. They wouldn't let me.
I know. Oh man, I was hoping you would ref, but that's another story in itself, you know. But I would say, you know how people look at the brackets, they look at the list of competitors. You know, that's sometimes not a bad idea because as a regular competitor, a recreational competitor, if you want to call it, how much money do you spend for registration, right? You spend almost like $100. So
Yeah, with gas money and stuff, yeah, it's up to about $100.
exactly. So it's an investment for yourself. So how much do you really want to do that tournament? Is it worth your time? Is it worth your money? And maybe do you have something else to do? So if you want to look at recreationally, that's a big factor. For myself, I kind of look like who's in it. I want to always fight the best guys, win or lose. That's what I want to do. If I can face the best guy, then I'm in there. Boom. You
So
can count me.
for somebody who's training full time like you, like tournaments like the Grappling Industries tournaments that are giving away trips, or I think they have an option now where you can take a cash payout instead of the trip, right?
That's
Like
right. That's right. Yeah.
obviously that's got to be fairly attractive for you as a competitor, right?
No, it is because the payout's not the same because the flight is a big difference compared to the payout, right? But it makes sense because if you take the trip, you go on the trip, right? If you take the money, they're gonna give you what it's worth in regards to what you've done, right? So, I mean, having cash in your hand if you need it for trips and other events is amazing. So it's definitely a big bonus for us to do these events like this, you know. So.
Just kind of going back to like sticking with tournaments. Who's been the most challenging person you've faced to date? Like what? Yeah, realistically, who and why? I guess.
Okay, I have two guys, and one of them is Michael Liera. I think I faced that guy like 5 times, 4 times, and I've lost to him every single time in the finals, in the semis, in the quarters, and most of the time, honestly, it's been by footlock, and I make the same stupid mistake. But he has to be one of the toughest guys. He's always on point. His mind's right. He trains maybe just as much or more than me, to be honest with you. And if you guys know where he trains at, you see the killers
Yeah.
he's always training with, right? So
He's at Atos, right? He's at
that's
Atos.
that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
So, like, this is a good point then. What you got two guys like yourself, you and Liera. You both train. You're both, I think, I'm sorry, how old are you again? Don't mind me asking.
I'm actually 27.
Okay, you're 27.
Yeah.
He's like what, 20?
He's like 20.
You
Yeah.
got some young, you guys are both young guys or whatever.
Yeah.
How, I don't know, what's the difference? Like, well, what is it? Do you think it's
Like what do you think you have to do to beat him? Like,
yeah.
Why?
You know what? I always tell myself that what do I have to do to beat him? But I'm always looking to find a way, and that's another thing. You know, it's always trials and tribulations. I try something, okay, I lose. What are you gonna do? You try again. You try to meet him in the finals. You try to meet him in the semis, wherever, right? And you try to beat him. And every time I've gotten to that point, I think I kind of get nervous and I stiff up. You know, that's what I feel. But it's hard to say at the moment because when you're there, it's just you can't reproduce that moment in time.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a completely different experience.
Exactly, it's
than
totally
anything.
different. Yeah, it's like people want to go to space and see the moon. It's like that. Unless you go there, you'll never know how it feels like, right? It's
Yeah.
exactly like that. So
You said there was another person as well?
yes, Marcio Andre. So I fought him at the Europeans, and no one's ever beat. Can I say a bad word on this or?
Yeah, you're
I was
fine.
gonna say
Yes.
no one's ever beat the shit on me like that guy did. To be honest with you. Yeah, he passed my guard. He mounted me. I've never been mounted in competition. People haven't passed my guard that much. I'm not saying you can't pass my guard, but I give it a hard time, right? And he did all that plus more. So
Was that gi or no gi? And which one? Yeah, gi or no gi?
that was in the gi. That was at the Europeans in the semifinals.
Oh, sorry, Europeans is only.
Yeah,
my mistake.
at my weight. So I think that day I can't complain. I was on the whole day. I had that was my 7th match. It was my 7th match, and I was on a roll. And if it wasn't for him, I would have won gold that day. But he stopped me.
So like leading up to a tournament, what's kind of going through your head? How do you prepare mentally? What happens the week leading up to a tournament for you?
Well, for me, I try to stay away from jiu-jitsu as much as I can, you know, and I don't really have much of a social life, to be honest with you, because I'm always training, I'm always doing something. So for me to stay away from it, maybe go out with some friends, that doesn't really count. So I try to watch maybe a bunch of movies that I haven't seen before. I have a dog, so I walk my dog as much as I can. I'll do some really random stuff that has nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. Maybe watch some Muay Thai or MMA.
Is this like for the whole week before a tournament?
Yeah, pretty much the whole week, other than training, right? So I'll train.
Okay.
I'll do my training, but it's like I've heard it many times. You can't in a week. You can't make anything better, and you can't make yourself stronger. There's nothing else you can do, right? So leading up to that week, you've done everything.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is get your mind right? So.
Yeah, and like the worst thing I find up to that week, I always find there's somebody at the academy who wants to show you like a million things.
It's so true, man. It's so true.
Yeah. No, okay. That's cool. So right before you step on the mat even, so you like to take yourself away from jiu-jitsu completely for the week before, but that hour leading up to the tournament, do you go through a mental process in your head? Do you just try to think about nothing? What's kind of going through your head?
Yeah, I've actually felt everything. I mean, since I started, I felt like nervous. I felt anger. I felt like anxiety. I felt depression. Like I'm not gonna win this. You know, a lot of thoughts going through my mind. But now I find that I think if I just again let it go, because jiu-jitsu is based on reactions, right? So if I just step in there and fight, and I should be doing exactly what I did in the gym. It should just be, all my reactions should come just like that, with a snap of a finger, you know? And if I just let it go, things will happen. So I kind of do the same thing. I try to stay away. Maybe I'll put some like really calm music, like some R&B or something like that. Nothing like I want to shoot somebody with a gun or anything like that. Like
we always see you like
rap.
we always see you like, you know, you're sitting there, you got the headphones on, we're like assuming that you're listening to like some really hard stuff. You got like Barry White going or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember I'd always be in the corner, just like looking kind of like not mad, but so focused. And I guess you're listening to R&B.
I always say I'm like, all these guys are walking around with like mean mug faces. I'm like, what are you guys mad at? We're here competing.
Yeah, man, that's honestly what's one thing that I never really understood about guys competing. Guys who feel like they gotta mean mug everybody, and they have to get it. I don't know if it's like for them, they have to seem as intimidating as possible to other people, or if they just really are angry.
I don't think you get that in the higher levels anymore. I think in white belt and maybe even early blue, you see that a lot of mean mugging, a lot of mohawks, and a lot of stuff like that. But yeah, the higher end blue and purple, yeah, they're just regular looking guys, like you know.
You know what? I find sorry to interrupt you. I find like in the local tournaments, the guys do that more than when I go to the international ones. Because, I don't know, when you go to international events, you kind of have this mutual respect, right? You kind of look at each other, you're like, okay, you're here for something, you know? And you see the guy, you kind of shake hands. And it's like kind of like an MMA fight, right? You know, when the guys finish, they shake hands, and then now they're best friends. It's kind of the same thing.
Well, it must seem too, like at a local tournament, you're like the big dog too, right? So I guarantee some guys look at you as like a big target on you.
Yeah.
And like that'd be a big feather in their cap too, to be able to beat you, right?
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Even in the gym, I step into the gym every day, and I'm sure maybe some of the people are hearing me, but I know they do it, and they always look at me or the other brown belts and they're like, okay, today's my day. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. And they try, but that's what makes the training so good, right? Is we're always pushing each other, and
so people are pushing for those gym wins.
Oh man!
you had a good tough match at that Grappling Industries tournament in the finals in the gi against Eric Hong Fan, who just got his purple belt.
Yes.
How'd that match go for you? Like it was a great match, both sides, but.
No, it went good. I mean, I've known Eric for 3 years. If you guys don't know or do know, he used to train at our gym at Toronto BJJ, and he started there since he was a juvenile. And he's recently that he went to open mat, right? So we kind of know a lot about him, and I knew he was playing this Bolo solo. Hong Solo.
Hashtag Bashir.
Hashtag Bolo Bashir, yeah. Oh man. So I'm thinking I just have to stay away from that beer and Bolo, right? And he's a tough kid, you know, and I like I said to you, I was there to win that money, so I wasn't gonna make any mistakes with him. So for me to just go crazy and try to do something to him would be kind of reckless, right? So.
I think, you know, in watching a lot of your matches, it's one thing that I really respect about your game is that you're very patient. Like, I certainly lack that patience, but
I don't think at all. I just
yeah, but like you can tell you're very focused on what you're doing. You're very patient. You're waiting for your opening. So. You know, was that something that kind of always came natural to you, being involved in athletics or being a competitor kind of from even before jiu-jitsu, or is that something you had to kind of learn?
Yeah, I've always been like a passive person, even my personality. Like maybe sometimes some people say, oh, you look so mean all the time, you don't smile enough. But it's not really that. I'm just very calm and relaxed. I sometimes don't even have a care in the world, you know. If to bring up a little example, like about 2 weeks ago, I got hit by a car. I was riding my bike, and some car hit me, and I went flying. Right. So I was pretty upset. This is downtown Toronto. I got up and I just didn't know what to do. So I told the guy, I'm like, listen, man, have a good day. I need to go train now. So I left and I went to go train. Right. You know, so that just shows you, like, I'm very, like, passive. I let things go. But sometimes that can be my downfall because in a match, you need to be very aggressive sometimes. And I lack that piece just a little bit. So I'm looking for that. Maybe I need to take a bit of all you guys and put in myself.
I don't think you want anything to do with
it.
I'm not that good.
We'll do just a gi top seminar.
Oh yeah.
So what do you know? Hold on, I want to hear. You said
no, I was gonna say I know about Ramy when remember when he went against Pema?
Yeah, we wrote that down. We were gonna ask you about that. So again, for those who don't know, Ramy was competing at Ascension tournament. It's the first.
Awesome. That was actually awesome.
It's the first tournament of Ontario. In the Toronto area. It's usually in January. And Ramy was in the finals against a guy named Pema Dorji out of Toronto BJJ. He's Alessandro's teammate, and he's a purple belt as well. And at the time, they were both blue. So Ramy and him had a very close match. It essentially entailed Ramy having him in a lasso.
It was a good match.
Yeah, it was a good match. And
like the last 10 seconds, he was choking me, and so.
Yeah, so it was 2-0, and he was choking him, and Ramy ran out the clock. So. And then Ramy celebrated like he won the the jackpot, the lottery.
Okay, to be fair though, like to defend myself, I hadn't won a tournament in such a long time.
No, you know what?
I couldn't believe it happened.
No, you know what? I saw your face. That's exactly what I said to myself. But you know what? We're on the heat of the moment. I'm yelling at Pema. Your brother's yelling at you. We're all yelling at each other.
And Oscar yelling at me behind me.
That's right.
I don't know what he's saying. Yeah, that was pretty funny. And then I remember Alessandro got a little. You were a little upset.
I was. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, come on, man. Come on. Like,
I felt like a complete douchebag. Like as soon as I calmed down, I'm like, ah, man.
that video needs to get posted on the Gi Top page.
We have it somewhere where he slaps the mat up and down.
Oh, that's right. He did. Yeah.
Ramy's monkey dance.
That's right. That's right.
It's something that Ramy will never live down for the rest of his life.
Every time I see him, I'm gonna point him out. I remember your monkey slaps.
That match needs to happen again, Rami. When you come back, you guys gotta face off again.
Come back from San Francisco.
No, that was good. But congrats. That was a good match.
For the World Championships of Southwestern Ontario.
Oh yeah, that was So again, we had that question there. So yeah, back to what you were saying. You're a mellow guy, but
no, I'm very passive. So
it's funny. Like he gets hit by a car, and he's like, "Oh, okay."
You know what? And then I'm not even being cocky about it. It wasn't anything nice at all. Who knows what could have happened, right? But it just shows you, like, I just didn't even know how to react, and I got up and I kind of told the guy, I'm like, man, just go home, please. I need to go train. So I'll see you guys later.
So kind of just bringing it back to the competition scene a little bit. You were saying like you find it better when you just don't think about anything. Does that mean that like do you have specific moves you have planned for a tournament? Do you have, because Arthur said for Worlds when he did it 2 years ago, he had 10 moves and he drilled them over and over and over again. He went to the tournament and did those moves. Is that what you do despite not thinking? Because I'm starting to compete a little more, and I'm trying to figure out what the best formula is, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Okay. So like the guys at the gym always ask me to drill, and I think drilling is awesome. But to be honest with you, I hate it. I can't stand it. It's very tedious for me, right? So I take my own drilling to like a different level and kind of thing for myself. So I'll be training with some guys, and it could be like a whole training session. Let's say 1 hour, right? I train, and through the whole drilling session, through the whole training session, I'll only use one technique, the technique that I want to use for that tournament. So the whole training session, I'll use, let's say, Kimura, 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 Kimura. I will tire myself out from tapping people over Kimuras until I get it from every single position. But the thing that's different from me just drilling with somebody is that I actually get a live effect from the person back, right? Because I'm rolling with them, so I get reactions from people. So rather than doing a drill and trying to drill, I drill it on the mat against the person I'm rolling against.
So is it almost like during a live roll, like?
Yeah. So it's like we shake hands, we roll, and the guy's doing whatever, and I'm just going for that one technique.
Now, do they know that? Like
no, they actually don't. They actually don't. But most of the time they ask me, "Oh man, you got me with so many Kimuras, or you got me with so many things," and I don't tell them.
What a coincidence.
But what if you don't get like Kimura, for example, you don't get it on anyone? Won't they kind of go, "Hey, what the hell, Alessandro? You suck that roll." Like would they? You know, does that ever come up too, or is that?
And you know what? And then it comes down to this. That's why there's so many fighters in the world, right? Where maybe that one thing that you did on that one guy was his best maneuver against it, right? You never know who you're gonna fight. So I try. That's why we believe in our techniques so much. I do what I believe in. I fight, and if it doesn't work, man, as long as I gave it my everything, what else can I do, right? It's like you can't do any more within that week. I talk about that last week than you did before that, right? So it's very hard to make yourself 10 times better within a week or a month, or it takes a long time. We know how jiu-jitsu is, right? So
it's almost like you got to put all the work in and just kind of accept the outcome of it.
Exactly. Or fight hard. Put a lot of heart into it, your mind, and let your reactions just flow with it, right?
So like you'll do one move. Let's say you're Kimura. Will you just do that for the day, or will you do that through the whole week, or
for the whole day? Because I'll have let's say four techniques, and within those four techniques, I'll use that each day a different technique. So Monday maybe Kimura, maybe my other technique is an armbar. I'll use that on Tuesday, and then Wednesday will be, I don't know, De La Hiva, and then let's say Thursday back to Kimura, and then I cycle it like that, right? So,
holy crap.
Yeah.
So pretty much I'm training wrong.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
Would you say that there's anybody, like, who are the people that you really respect in jiu-jitsu? Is there anybody that you try to model your style after, or people that have a similar style to yours that you try to, glean new moves from?
I mean, I guess, one person who's one of my biggest idols, I guess, is George, right? He's taught me a lot, and we used to have an instructor, Eduardo. He taught me a lot as well. If you had to talk about anybody like a BJJ hero type of thing, I would say Leandro Lo. I mean, that guy's a man. Leandro Lo is just killing everybody. And you know what? Everyone thinks he's this athletic guy and gifted. I don't think he is. I think he's just a gritty guy who was more rough on the streets and then put a gi on or some pajamas and started fighting with people, right? He just looks so gritty. He's so much heart, and he has a lot of drive, and I really respect that. I mean, the technique comes along with the training, right? So that's a given. But everything else with that is hard to remake. So I would say Leandro Lo. Leandro Lo is one of my biggest guys.
Yeah. Just another. Sorry. We have a couple questions from some other people. We won't go there just yet, but I just want to keep that on the back burner there. But speaking of injury, I want to go back to the car accident thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like you said, something could have happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Worse than what happened there, or maybe in training, maybe a severe injury or whatever. Do you have like a backup in case, let's say, you do tear your knee and you need surgery and you're out for 6 months? We have some guys locally, I believe, like Scott Bacon, for example. He tore his knee. You got some other people who've torn their shoulder and whatnot, so they have these long layoffs. What do you do, especially since not only are you training there, but it's your place of employment? I suppose you can still teach injured, but have you given that thought?
Yeah, no, I always get asked that question, and everyone always asks me, he's like, oh, you're an athlete, but what if, right? Exactly that. And I think teaching would be one thing for sure. That's my first option. But, I mean, I can always do like some sort of fitness thing. Like I used to help people with personal training and stuff like that. So maybe I can help people with their getting into fitness shape, helping some friends maybe with their like fitness competitions and stuff like that. So anything regarding that lines of active living, because I'm not the biggest fans of cars like I used to be. I used to be so into cars, right? So getting back to the mechanics world is not anything I want to do, to be honest with you.
So with you, I think you said you lift pretty much every day, right, or do some sort of cross training. So
3 times a week, yeah.
3 times a week?
Yeah.
So how do you, like with that on top of all of your training, what do you do for, injury prevention or recovery, those sorts of things?
I've always been the type of person to think about how smart I'm training and what am I doing in my training, That'll push you back sometimes from training even harder, but you need to take that step forward to make sure you're good for your tournaments, right? So even if you don't train hard that day, you're still going to be good for the tournament or good for the next day, next training session. Along with things like supplements and vitamins and minerals, I'm always researching what's the best products. Maybe I try it doesn't work, but I try the next one, and I'm kind of like my own guinea pig. I just feed myself anything and I try it and see if it works, right? So
what's working for you right now? What sorts of things are you like in terms of supplements, for example?
I think the 2 biggest ones, I've heard it from Tommy told me about it, a teammate of mine, Thomas Beach. Pema told me about it as well, and I've heard it on the podcast. Joe Rogan, the Own It, you guys have heard it, right? The Shroom Tech and the Alpha Brain, right?
Yeah.
I think if there's any products I have, would be those 2. But those are pretty expensive, so not your average day person can buy it if they don't have the money, right? Because if you buy it consistently, it just costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And even I don't. I buy it every once in a while, right, for the big competitions. But I would have to say your simple things like fish oils, vitamin C, vitamin D, making sure that if you need any inflammatories for like injuries and stuff like that, everything else is pretty straightforward. Protein, BCAAs. Right, so pretty average stuff, and I think that works the best. And food.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you eat a lot? Like, do you know what your caloric intake is? Like, you must burn a lot of calories a day. Like,
I do. I don't know exactly what my calorie intake is, but let's say I would eat like 6 meals a day. And now that I'm jumping up a class, I'm even eating more now. So
you're going to middle then?
Yeah, so I'm now going from lightweight to middle. Yeah.
That's good. I think that's a good. You were feather for a while.
Yeah, I was. I've actually fought from light feather. I fought feather. I fought lightweight, and I fought now middle.
What were you when you fought the? You did the trial. I know you won the trials in Montreal as a purple belt, didn't you?
That was feather.
Was that feather?
No,
Oh,
that
okay.
was 168. That was
Oh,
168.
was it?
Yeah, that was 168.
You look like feather. You looked really sucked in at the time, so
I was way lighter. I was way lighter than my weight, but I couldn't get to the one below, so I did 168.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Alessandro,
Go ahead.
sorry, is there anybody, just in terms of, just to bring it back to competing for a second, you've talked about a couple of people that you've had really hard matches for. Anybody, and really hard matches with, anybody that you really enjoy competing against, either on the local scene or internationally?
I enjoy competing against the guys from Marcelo's a lot. I fought as well Manshur Kezra, Munchie. I fought him quite a few times, and we just have battles every time. I fought Gianni Grippo. I always have battles with him. Another one of Munchie's teammates from Marcelo Garcia's, Jonathan Satava. I fought him many times too. So a lot of the guys I fight against are guys from the international that have a great time. Even Arthur. Arthur's very good if you're talking about locally. Every time I fight him, it's always like down to one advantage, and it was like that since blue belt. So very talented guy. He has a bright future, So.
Do you want to face? Would you want to face like someone like Amir again? He's been a brown belt forever, kind of destroying everyone, especially in the gi. Maybe not so much the no gi, but.
100%, yeah. And anybody wants to put that up, I'll do it in no time. I'm always up for a challenge. Always up to fight the best guys. So for sure, win or lose, I'm always putting myself to the best of my abilities.
How many times did you face Greco? I know you faced him at the New York Open recently, right?
Yeah, I faced Gianni twice. I faced him at purple belt no-gi pans, and I faced him at the New York Open.
In the New York Open, you only lost was it 2-0?
Yeah, it was just 2-0 by a sweep. Yeah. He tried to take my back, and I got out of it, and as I was sweeping at the end, the time ran out, but he came on top with the sweep, right? So he got the 2 points.
Okay.
Good match. Good match.
Yeah, I guess it's probably hard against those guys who are training full. I know you train full time, but you get a whole bunch of people who are all training full time, and it just gets kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know that Gianni is exception though. I've heard many things about Gianni, and Gianni actually is a workhorse. That guy just drills after class, before class, after class, before class, trains nighttime, daytime, morning, nighttime. I don't do that much. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have a life too, and I have things to do, but I try to train as much as I can, right? Whenever I can. So, but he's a workhorse. I have to give a lot of credibility for him.
I remember when he was telling it, because we had him on the podcast.
Yeah, he was on episode 8. He was on episode 8.
Yeah, he was one of our earlier guests, and when he was explaining his routine, I was just like, I don't even.
Crazy,
yeah,
I know, huh?
It's hard to believe almost. But
I do squats on a Friday and then on Saturday. I just totally phoned it in on drill class. I'm just like.
I honestly don't even do any strength and conditioning. I just.
Sometimes I'm just tired. Now, anyway, Alessandro, really quick, Alessandro. This is a gripe that maybe some might have, maybe some don't. I'm kind of indifferent to it, but you give me your opinion on this. And guys, you guys, of course, cue in if you want. But okay, in the local tournament scene, let's say, for example, just any tournament, whatever, Ontario Open, use that. It's a big one here. You have guys right now, blue belt. Yourself, you were full-time at white belt, but let's just say blue belt. You got guys at blue belt full-time right now, training all day or every day, maybe as much as you do, maybe more, maybe less, whatever. Do you feel that, like, is it necessarily fair for, let's say a guy who's 23 years old, he's in school, 19 years old, he's in school, and, he takes jiu-jitsu, he goes 6 days a week or whatever, so he's training a lot, but not quite at that level, you know what I mean? And so I guess, long story short, what I'm getting at is the tournament level, do you think it should be divided into almost like a professional and amateur circuit? Will we get there, do you think? Because, for example, let's say I had to face you, that would suck, right? Like I don't we're not. Well,
I
you're brown
appreciate
belt,
the compliment.
Well, let's say you're a purple belt, right? You know what I mean? Like, it sucks. It's like, oh fuck, and it gets in people's heads, and you guys have reputations. Like a lot of you guys, it's like people know, hey, they're full time, man. Don't be so hard on yourself. You hear it a lot.
Yeah.
So do you think we might see that?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. You know what? Maybe, but it's hard to say because what's competition, right? Competition is you're always testing yourself against the best guy. So if you want to test yourself against the best guy, you're going to swim with the sharks, even if the shark's going to bite. So you're going to jump in there no matter what. So as long as, I always say, as long as you give it your everything,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to do your best you can. I think you should be happy with your outcome. But is that a good idea to change? I mean, maybe like do some sort of like an amateur to pro league. I think that's a great idea. I think that will definitely what's that word? Differentiate the people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there might be money in it in the future. I mean, I don't know. Like right now, there's not much money in jiu-jitsu.
But the thing is, if you want to talk about local matter, then there wouldn't be that many competitors for the guys who are like myself, right?
Yeah.
Or Darson or Tommy. Like it just wouldn't be enough guys, or because there's not many people who want to do that for a living, right? It's not really a job.
You should just start doing masters, because
No,
that's basically what you're describing.
I think that's what Ahmed is getting at. He's
He's looking for permission. He's looking for permission to do masters.
He wants revenge.
He just wants to win those easy medals. That's what he wants.
I'm not gonna say it like masters is easy, because it's not. There's a lot of good guys at masters. I mean, you know what I mean? But that's just not what I want to do. Like Alessandro said, I'd rather lose to a really good guy. Sounds good.
And you know what? And you know what, Ahmed? If like, even take for example, here's actually a perfect example. Shanji did the World Masters last year, and he did the Worlds, right? And he won double gold at the World Masters, but he didn't win double gold or even win gold at the Worlds, right? But he still competed in both. So if you can do Masters, man, I would go for it no matter what, and do adults, right? So you're always going to compete, and you're going to make yourself better no matter what. And let's say you win the Masters. Well, guess what? You just build some confidence in yourself. So maybe when you jump into the adult, it might be a little easier for you, right? So, you can play with it like that. But again, I don't think there would be enough guys for both segments, right? Maybe more for the amateur, but for professional, if you want to call it a professional league, it'd be pretty hard to get competitors in, because locally we don't have that much, right?
I think that's what makes jiu-jitsu almost really cool, is the fact that people who get their black belt, you can enter a division who has Leandro Lowe, you can enter who has Shanji, or
that's right.
just whoever, anybody. And there's not many sports like that where you can just jump in. So I don't know.
Rami would be completely starstruck if he were competing at these guys. He just freeze right there on the spot.
Rami's still starstruck by his own instructor.
Speaking of masters, Alessandro, all right, so you're 27, 3 years down the road.
Yeah.
Would you do it?
100%.
Well, actually, by then you'll be a black belt, so yeah, you probably.
Yeah, I'll do both.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna do both. I mean, I'm gonna try to be. Right now, I'm working to be the best brown belt and black belt I can be, right? So, because I know that when I get to, if I'm still a middleweight, which I will be, I think. When I get to middleweight black belt, I'm going to be facing guys like Leandro Lowe. And if it's still the same like they are now, wow, I'm going to have a hell of a time trying to beat those guys. Or Octavio Souza or Claudio Calzan. So, you guys know the list goes on, right? So It's just a bunch of killers in these divisions, right? So I'm going to do both. I'm going to do both for sure.
Well, I got Alessandro's permission now, and I don't feel so bad.
I like that attitude.
Yeah. Well, I am doing the World Masters this Saturday. Well, not this Saturday, but a week.
Next week, yeah.
Yeah, that should be pretty funny.
I think it'll probably go better for you then, because you have the experience for adult, right? So you never know. You're gonna feel maybe a little more confident, right? You're gonna probably a little more confident.
We'll have a world champion on.
Exactly.
But now I'll lose, and it's like.
Everybody will know.
Everyone will publicly shame you on the podcast.
Don't pull turtle.
I won't do it.
Ahmed, do you say there was we had some fan questions, or?
You know what? I've kind of snuck them in as I've been asking.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I kind of just been asking. Like I don't have names. I'm not going to say the names of the people, but
he
but they were all
basically
respectful
stole their
questions.
he stole their questions and passed them off as his own.
No, I did my research, man. I did my research.
So okay, well, hold on, just because I feel like we have a limited amount of time now, but my last question is: you're saying you want to stay at middleweight now that you're moving up there. What we kind of talked about your supplements and whatnot, but what's your diet like? How do you decide where you're gonna eat? And I'm honestly kind of interested to hear like what a cheat day or like how you deal with that, because for me it's like I compete, and then after I compete, I have like pints of ice cream every day for like 5 days in a row, and then it's disgusting.
I look at it like this. What's you guys, the brothers, what's your nationality? What's your background?
Lebanese.
Lebanese. Okay.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I know about Lebanese people, you guys are shredded every single day, every hour, every second. You can eat like a box of chocolate and have ripped abs.
It is true. It is true.
Okay. So myself, your average Latino does not have ripped abs and muscle back and this and that. So I kind of have to watch what I eat, you know.
But you guys get all the ladies though.
No. Yeah, maybe the suave part, maybe with the suave part, right? We can pass them on to you guys. You guys can give us some of your stuff, right? So I can't eat everything that I think I can eat, you know. And my favorite thing is chocolate. I'm sure most of you guys like chocolate too. So if I can dig into chocolate all day, I would. But I try to make it as healthy meals as possible. Balance my diet within the meals, you know. I don't mix carbs with carbs. I try not to mix meats with meats. You know, always have a vegetable around me, and then my supplements along with that. So I follow actually the Gracie diet a lot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Gracie diet.
Yeah.
So I don't follow it directly because I don't believe the Gracie diet gives enough protein intake, but I follow things like, I think after a meal you should wait 3 hours to eat again. I think that's great because your digestion system needs to balance itself too, right? So you need to digest before you have another meal.
I don't even finish eating before I start eating again. It's just like the next meal's coming in right behind.
You know, so things like that for me help me, right? So, because if I just eat whatever I want, I get chunky pretty fast. I mean, training helps me lose that weight, but if I wasn't training, I think I'd be pretty fat.
You consistently eat pretty well, right?
Pardon me?
You consistently eat pretty clean. Then
Yeah.
Right?
I've always been like a twig since I was little, but as I've grown, now that I am an athlete, I train all the time, the food just comes in me and metabolizes as well, but not as well as I wanted to, right? Because I'm growing too. I'm 27 now. You guys know, from 27 to 34, you're pretty much peaking, right? So your body's working to its best function now. So if I can keep at this weight, by the time I'm 34 or 30, I'll be good to go for middleweight, and I'll have a great stature to work off for an athlete, right? So. Yeah.
So just one quick question just about that. So, you know, you've got this long bus ride. You're basically in Toronto all day training. Do you make food at home, bring it with you, or do you have somewhere that you can go? Do you make food, or do you buy food while you're there in Toronto?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, there's been days I actually I bring like a Cliff Bar or a protein bar, and that's all I eat. I eat at 12, and then I train the whole day without eating nothing but drinking water.
Jesus.
Yeah, I actually do this. I actually do that sometimes because I have no money. The $12 that I have, I need it for the bus. It's $3 for the subway and $3.25 for the Mississauga Transit, right? So I have to be very specific with what I do. So, but there's times I make my meals, I take them with me, but it takes a lot more work for me. And sometimes I get home, as well as you guys know, you get lazy, you want to go to sleep, you toss your stuff on the ground and you go to bed, right? So the next day I wake up, I'm like, damn, shit. So I got to pick up my stuff and go, and I just leave. You know? And then there's times where I buy food when I have the money. So it all depends.
Guys, I have one other question. Sorry, Alessandro. We just had one more question come in, so I just want to ask it as it happens. But and then we've mentioned this before on the podcast, and I know people are going to roll their eyes like, oh, I'm going to always ask this one. But this question I wasn't going to ask until someone mentioned it. So now, just so I get that disclaimer out of the way.
No
competing against teammates. I brought it up. I feel kind of dumb for bringing it up because I always bring it up. But anyway, Toronto BJJ, I've seen you guys close out divisions all the time. You never face each other. And it's kind of weird because there's a trip on the line as well sometimes, and I see you guys that kind of close it out. What's the criteria for that? Like, is that did you give it to the guy who had the toughest path to the finals or something, or?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It depends on what the day's like, who it is, what belt is the guy. Oh, sorry, not what belt, sorry, because it would be the same belt, but how much time has that guy been in the belt? How much more does he deserve it than the other guy? But now I think we're starting to get past that. I think we've been talking about actually that a lot, and now we just fight. George just says, guys, just fight. If you don't want to, it's another story, right? So we choose not to. But I think now everyone is just fighting each other. So let's say like Grappling Industries, I fought John Tain. They asked John Tain, would you like to fight? He said yes. They asked me, I said yes, and we fought. So kind of like that. Even like in let's say a World Championship final, we would have to fight because the IBJJF says we have to fight, right? So.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, that's totally different. Then you guys don't suffer from that. You got your team dynamics still pretty tight.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, if you beat the guy, what can you say, right? You go to the gym, you've got the one up on him either way, right? So.
Okay.
Awesome. Anybody else have any other closing questions for Alessandro at all? No? Okay. Yeah. So Alessandro, I'll just turn it over to you now. So I'm sure you've got some sponsors you'd like to thank. Anybody else you want to shout out to? So this is your opportunity.
Okay, I'd like to thank you guys, just the Gitov, for having me on the show. It was a pleasure. It was fun too. Talk about Rami's craziness. And I'd like to thank Toronto BJJ for everything they've done for me. All the coaches, head instructor Jorge Britto, Josh for great sponsorship. My teammates, there's so many to name from, but you guys know who you are. And my friends actually at Acai Cafe. I don't know if you guys tried it, the acai.
Oh yeah, there's a great picture of Ahmed and I sharing a bowl of
acai. That's right, I saw it. That's right.
Yeah, like who runs that, by the way?
That's Nathan and Mike.
Oh, and Mike, right. It's funny because Nate handed me a beating on this past weekend, and then I go and I buy an acai from him.
and then he handed you a bowl, eh?
Yeah. I gave me money for it. It was awesome. But so, no, he's a good guy. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Good. Yeah, shout out to them for helping me out, Acai Cafe, and my gi sponsor right now, King's Kimonos. Look them up, fightersmarket.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. That was great. I'll just take this opportunity again to thank our sponsor, VHTS, veryhardtosubmit.com. Go check them out, buy a gi. Anything else, anybody?
No, that's it. Again, I just want to say, like, I know we already said thanks, but yeah, it was last minute. I literally came up to him last week. I'm like, hey, come on, you want to come on? He's totally on board with it, so that was awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Alessandro.
I like what you guys are doing. It's cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right, so that's a wrap for episode 14. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.